The death of Princess Amelia, the daughter of Queen Charlotte and King George III. Princess Amelia entered the world at the Royal Lodge, Windsor. She held the position of the sixth daughter of King George III and Charlotte of Mecklenburg-strelitz, and she held the distinction of being the youngest among their 15 children. On the 17th of September 1783, she received her christening at the Chapel Royal, St James's Palace, administered by John Moore, the Archbishop of Canterbury. Amelia took her name from her aunt, Princess Amelia, the daughter of George II, and her father, the King, affectionately referred to her as Emily. Amelia's birth followed the untimely deaths of her two older brothers, the dearly beloved Octavius and Alfred. When Amelia was only a month old, her eldest sister Charlotte wrote to Prince William, describing her as undoubtedly one of the most beautiful children I have ever seen. She was expected to possess the same beauty, charm, and winsomeness as Octavius, her father's previous favourite child. In her early years, the king would spend time playing with her on the floor, and it was unusual for a father at the time to be so involved in his daughter's upbringing. But Sophia's father had a fondness for his daughters. And favoured them over his sons. He made a point to attend their birthday celebrations and other significant occasions, remaining informed about their education. A family friend once remarked, "I have never encountered more delightful children or witnessed a more endearing sight than the king's affection for them." Queen Charlotte, on the other hand, was widely feared by her daughters. Before 1788, King George had informed his daughters that he intended to take them to Hanover and arrange suitable marriages for them. However, he commented, "I cannot deny that I have never wished to see any of them marry. I am happy in their company and do not desire any separation." However, the king experienced his first bout of madness later that year, now believed to be the hereditary illness porphyria, thought to have been inherited from his Stuart ancestors. Amelia was merely 5 years old at the time, and subsequent episodes of insanity occurred in 1801 and 1804, which postponed any discussion of marriage for his daughters. The Queen, burdened by the king's illness, desired for the princesses to remain close to her. Amelia and her sisters, Charlotte Augusta, Elizabeth, Mary, and Sophia, were kept isolated, which limited their chances of meeting suitable suitors of their own age. In 1798, Princess Amelia began experiencing pain in her knee joint and was sent to the coastal town of Worthing for recuperation. From there, she wrote to her father stating, "Undoubtedly, the vapour and warm sea bath are beneficial, and I hope to assure you that I am improving." By the following year, Amelia had sufficiently recovered to join her family at Weymouth, where she doted on her young niece, Princess Charlotte of Wales, the only daughter of her elder brother, George, Prince of Wales, who later became George IV. Amelia possessed beauty and grace with her slender frame and auburn hair. She displayed an avid interest in art, music, history, and literature, and she excelled in horsemanship. She was reputed to be the most turbulent and tempestuous of all the princesses. Nevertheless, she was also described as gentle, selfless, and highly intelligent. These qualities prompted her sister-in-law, Princess Caroline, who was known for her disdain towards her in-laws, to refer to Amelia as the most amicable among the group. Amelia was a favourite of both the Prince of Wales and Augustus, Duke of Sussex, who called her a lovely creature. Amelia adored her eldest brother George, and once told him that she had always loved him better than her other brothers. He, for his part, loved her perhaps more than he did his other sisters, with the possible exception of Princess Mary. Amelia's health was frail throughout her lifetime, and at the age of 15 she began exhibiting early signs of tuberculosis. In 1801 she was sent to Weymouth for a seaside treatment, and one of her companions during this time was the Honourable Charles Fitzroy, an equerry who was significantly older than her by 21 years. He was the second son of Charles Fitzroy, 1st Baron Southampton, and a descendant of Charles II. Amelia fell deeply in love with Charles and desired to marry him. A servant informed the Queen of their attachment, but she chose to overlook it. The hope was keeping the liaison a secret would prevent the king, who was increasingly prone to mental illness, from discovering it. Although Amelia never gave up hope of marrying Charles Fitzroy, she knew that it was legally impossible due to the provisions of the Royal Marriages Act enacted by her father's Parliament. In later years she confided in her brother Frederick that she considered herself married to Charles, adopting the initials AFR, Amelia Fitzroy. In 1808, Amelia fell severely ill with measles, and the gloomy atmosphere at home in Windsor with her mother only added to her misery. Concerned for her well-being, King George decided to send Amelia to Weymouth, accompanied by her sister Princess Mary. While her health improved slightly, she found solace in quiet rest. By 1809, Amelia was able to take short walks in the garden on occasion. However, the improvement proved to be temporary, and in August 1810 her suffering intensified. In October of the same year, she was afflicted with a painful bacterial skin infection, also known as St. Anthony's fire. The king summoned Amelia's physicians to be present multiple times a day, diligently inquiring about her condition. Despite her sister Mary's devoted care, Amelia's health deteriorated, and she passed away a few days later on the 2nd of November 1810 at Augusta Lodge, Windsor. In her will she bequeathed all of her possessions to Charles Fitzroy, and King George III was devastated by Amelia's death and spiralled further into a state of madness from which he never recovered. The Prince of Wales, George, was also profoundly affected by her passing. He was so deeply shaken that he could no longer sleep in a room without several lit candles after her funeral. Even more than 3 years later, he would burst into tears at the mere mention of her name. Amelia was laid to rest in the royal vault at St. George's Chapel, Windsor.